welcome to the Swedish Junior Hockey Podcast. Jacob Dahlin, who we've been running this podcast for over 100 episodes. And today, Fredrik Nygren from Saltsjöbaden, General Manager. Welcome to the podcast.
Thank you so much, Jacob. It's a pleasure to be here with you.
Yeah, second Saltis. So everybody in Sweden, when you hear it, it's a true Stockholm slang. When you say, no one says Saltsjöbaden, everybody says Saltis. Then you know you're from Stockholm, right?
Yes.
So today I wanted to, you came introduced through some other people, and we've already had Kim Lindgren, who was in Saltsjöbaden. I believe he may have been a strength and conditioning.
No, he was head coach for our U18 team.
Okay, head coach. I couldn't remember. That was early on in the recordings, and so on. But main reason for having you on is really to talk about, and we'll get there eventually, but talking about being a general manager of a small organization. What does it mean? How much what does it take to build a club? You've done that, and you worked in Täby, a bigger organization, and how do you take your experiences and trying to do it again, or how do you, what are the goals there? So, but let's start off, give a little background for those who don't know. Who is Fredrik Nygren?
Yes, thank you. I'm born in 1983 in Stockholm, and I started playing as a pretty late. I think I was 8 years old when I started playing hockey. All my friends started a little earlier. None in my family ever played hockey. It was a new sport for my family. But one day I came home from school and said I wanted to start play hockey. And the only experience from skating was with my father on the lakes when I was younger. So I could barely stand on skates when I was 8 years old. But I came in Tullinge, where I was born and raised, and start play there. And pretty fast I became one of the better skaters in the team. But so that took me on to next level. That was Flemingsberg, and then I wanted to try my wings in a bigger organization. I think it was the best one in Stockholm back then. It was Hammarby IF, who had a very good hockey program back then for youth hockey. I played there for around 1 year and figured out that that was not for me really. But so I went to another organization in South Stockholm in Salem and played junior hockey, and I also did my first games in A-laget, which is the adult level.
Yeah, the men's
it was
team.
The men's team, exactly. It was a third league in Sweden, so it was a pretty high level. I was 17 when I came up there, and it was a lot to see and learn. And the coach thought that I need some more experience from the men's hockey, so I went back to Flemingsberg, where I had been earlier. In Flemingsberg, I played for like 2 years and did pretty good, but I had some problem with my groin.
Yeah.
So I started to coach at the summer camp, and I had a very good mentor in the club back then. It was his name was Roger, and I thought coaching was so much fun. And I was around 19 years old, and I started coach on the summer camp, and then I asked Roger if I could continue coach after this. So I started in first team was Flemingsberg 91s.
Okay.
I was like a third coach there, assistant coach, to see and learn. And after 2 years, I took over the 94 team, and I had a blast. It was so much fun, and I think the best player from that team is Jesper Pettersson. He played in SHL now for many years.
What age? So what age players was that at the time?
I think they were around 10 years old, so 10,
Okay.
11. They were pretty young, yeah. But back then it was I the kind of hockey I learned then from Roger and from another famous coach, Thomas Storm. I was taught so much skills coaching back then. I mean, I built up my coaching style after them a lot. So it was a lot
Yeah.
about skating and stick handling and all about individual skills. So that was like my coaching, where I started up with coaching. But then after 3 years as a coach there, Stocksund, now it's called SDE in North Stockholm.
Yep.
They were a very good organization also back then in Stocksund. They called me one day and asked me if I wanted to start coaching there. And for 3 years, I didn't get any money at all from coaching it. I just thought it was so much fun, and I did it all for free. And I took it as education and experience. Today, when I see young coaches coming up, the first question would be, "Oh, how much do I get paid?" And I try to tell them, "Okay, wait, you need to. What job gives you like good money from day one? You need to educate yourself, and it's the same as a hockey coach. You need to do some years where you have to see and learn, and that's what I did in Flemingsberg for 3 years. I watched other coaches and I built my own style, and I also went to the college in
Yeah.
Sweden in GIH.
Yeah, I was getting ready to ask because that was the same
Yeah,
time that you went
yeah,
to that in
yeah.
2006. What did you do? I mean, so before that you didn't go to college.
No, it's not so common in Sweden to go to college as it is in the US. It's you go to a gymnasium and then many people start work right after.
But
So, so I
since you didn't have initially you didn't make a lot of money or didn't hardly get paid at all. After
no.
gymnasium or high school, what did you do for a were you living at home or I mean, your expenses I'm sure were
Yeah.
much lower at
Yeah.
that time.
No, but I also had a regular work like when you're young, you try many different jobs. Like you try. I worked at the supermarket. I
Yep.
worked as on like a construction company. I worked in an office. Like I tried many different jobs that didn't require the education. So, and the hockey for me was just a dream to work with it full time. It was just something I did on my spare time. Like this is something I want to do in the future. I wanted to be a coach and I wanted to work with it professional.
Yeah.
But in the beginning, it was just on my free time. Like I went to the rink, and at the same time, I also played. So I played and was coaching for the first 2 years. I was doing it side by side.
Yep.
But then I was thinking like the coaching is so much more fun than playing right now. So that's when I stepped over more and more to coach.
Was it bad for you? So you were 23 or so when you started
I
university.
was yeah, exactly, yeah.
Yeah, but was that did you see that as a disadvantage or an advantage for starting not right after high school or a gymnasium?
I mean, I think it was good for me because during the first years after gymnasium, I could try some different
Yep.
like jobs and see what I wanted to do.
And what
And
you
then the
didn't want to
reason
do?
why, yeah, exactly. And I found out pretty fast that I don't want to have a 9 to 5 job or a 8 to 4 job, like a regular, the same schedule every day. That's nothing for me. I want to do something that I really like. So I think when I sat on one job at the office, I was thinking, why don't I look at the stars now, and why don't I try to coach full time? Like that's something I really want to do. So I start searching for different college educations in Sweden, and I found this coaching program at the college that was is more like focus on all sports. You teach like everything that has to do with sports, but it's not only on your sports, it's like all the sports. So
and
it was good
at the level
yeah.
is a good one, right? I mean, that's a good a good path to go, whether you go into coaching or you go into kind of as a from a teacher's perspective as well, right? You can be a teacher. You know, it's weird. When I was growing up in Sweden, being a athletic teacher, a PE, physical education. Of course, I grew up in Leksand, and we had Fisken Olsson, Nubben Andersson. These kind of guys were the PE teachers, and a lot of them were guys that were playing hockey. You know, but they were all. I mean, they were incredible. They were great. But I remember I came over to the United States when I was 18, and I actually my first I went to college here, and my first thought was I want to go through a kind of the equivalent of that in in the US. But what I find out in the US, being a PE teacher is kind of like not as high status as it is in Sweden.
Yeah, yeah.
But GIH, or the university degree, it's not easy to get into. So you must have done pretty good in high school too.
I mean, it was not. I think it was more. I had a good like education in high school and pretty good grades, but I was not like top of the class or something. But I came in through what I was doing, coaching. Like
I see.
I get good
experience there.
So experience from the coaching, and I got some good reference from my mentors and my own coaches. So I think it was that way. I was like made it. It was not my grades from high school that made it.
Yeah. All right. So fast forward a little bit. Then then you go into. Let me look at elite prospect.
Stocksund was the next. So that was my first paid coaching job in Stocksund.
Okay.
So I had like that's when I realized, wow, I can do this for money too. Like all the work and all the time I putting in, Stocksund gives me an offer to like, and at that point it was not full time. It was like part time, like maybe 50% of a full time job. But I made it. I had some other small jobs, but I could do coaching like most of the time. So I was really happy back then, and I really enjoyed it in Stocksund. And there I met one of the best mentors I ever had, Per Wirén. That he's pretty old now. He's around 75 or something. But I really liked his coaching style and his hockey like mind. It was so he opened so many new doors, like in my coaching style. I came from only skills, and here I met someone that was like talking about the game hockey and saw things. It felt like he could look into the future. He was talking about like situations in the hockey that people didn't talk about back then, and but I realized after that Per told me this for 20 years ago or something like that. So, no, I really like Per. He was a good guy. So I was there for 2 years in Stocksund, and I was coaching the 93 team and the 94s.
Yeah.
So that's and we had some really good players there as well in Stocksund. So that was a great time of my life.
And then you decided to really saddle up your horse and said, "I'm going to the United States." How did that come about?
There was actually a phone call, and I picked up the phone, and in the other end, I heard a voice tell me, "Hi, this is Michael Nylander." And I say, "Excuse me?" "Yeah, this is Michael." "Okay, hey, Mike." "Oh, do you want to move to the US?" "Okay, why?" "I want you to coach my sons over here." "Okay, but I never been to the US." "Yeah, but you can come over and visit and see if you like it." So that was actually the story behind that. So yeah,
how did
I went over to, yeah.
let me hold up right a little bit there, because I think it's
Of
important.
course, yeah.
Um, you didn't know him personally at that time.
I met him. I think three months before he made that call. I met him at the summer camp. He was at the summer camp in Stockholm with his two sons, and I was doing some skills on that camp, and he asked me a couple of things about outside and inside edge, and so that was I met him one time before that phone call, but it wasn't like a big deal. We didn't change number, or like this. We only talked for maybe 3 to 5 minutes
Yeah.
on that camp, so I was nothing more after that.
But I think it's an important part of, like, it's kind of how life is, and networking and doing a good job and being people. It's one thing. I mean, I'm 49, and I'm astonished by how small this world of hockey really is. And it's all about, there's a lot of bad things in this game. There's a lot of bad people in this game, unfortunately, especially over here in the US. But there's also an awful lot of good people. And if you do a good job, people will notice. And if you really have your heart into something, people notice, and you never know what that may lead into, and where it will take you. But it must have been still a little bit of like, okay, you liked it there in Stocksund.
Yeah,
They gave you an opportunity, and now, so had you finished your school at that time?
I had 1 year left, so I've
Okay.
done 2 years. But then, I mean, I worked very hard in Stocksund. I was there like from 2 o'clock in the afternoon, and I stayed like to 10 in the evening. So it was really tough back then to combine like working with almost full time with hockey and combine with full time studies. So I did 2 years in
Yeah.
college out of three. So I still have one. I still have 1 year left to do. And back then it felt like the right choice to like put the school on hold, because now I'm doing what I came here for. Like I came here to the coaching, to work full time with the coaching, and I almost did it. So I was feeling that, should I drop Stocksund or should I drop the school for now? So I choose to drop the school for the third year. So I did 2 of 3 years.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that was no, I don't regret that. I mean, I can still today. It's almost 20 years ago. I can still pick it up if I want to finish it, but it's the years running by.
Yeah. Well, it's so cool. So for those who goes to your LinkedIn profile, and you've got the newspaper article from what is that, 2008, and it said selected by the NHL pro Michael Nylander, and it's got, I guess that is William in that picture, right?
Yeah, that's William. Yeah, that's me and William and Michael. Yeah.
Yeah. And but what an awesome opportunity to do. Were you single at the time?
Yeah, yeah.
So like
So I
completely
just,
unattached, pack your bag, head on over.
yeah, correct. But it was, so I went there in the spring to just see how everything was, and this is 2008. Yeah. and I went there for 10 days, and so many stories from that trip. It was so much fun. But basically, Michael went to Mercedes in Virginia, and he told he wanted a car, just a rental car for 10 days. And they recognized him, of course. So they picked a brand new Mercedes, very nice car, and he said, "Okay, this one is yours for this trip." So me and William and Alex, we were driving around in that car. I was driving them around for 10 days, and I stayed at Michael's house, and we went to baseball, and we were in the VIP section. We went to the playoffs games when Michael played. We were in the family lounge, so I met all the players already then. Ovechkin, Bäckström, Mike Green, all of these guys.
Yeah.
We did so many things that trip, so it was tough after that to say, okay, I don't want to do this. But
let's just say
so
that he did a good he did a good sales job, is what really what it was.
Introduce the US for me pretty well. So, and I went to the tryouts for my teams that I'm going to coach the year after.
Okay.
After the summer. So
what age group did you have there? Was that the younger kids too? 10, 12?
Exactly. So I had Alexander's team, and he's born 98, but he played with the 97s, and I had the 96 teams. So this was basically Pee Wee major and Pee Wee minors. So I have the 97 and 96 teams, and so William played with the 95s, so all the time on the ice with 96 too, and Alex was up with the 96. So like they always like practice 2 or 3 practices every night, like and it was so it was so I coached over there. I was coaching Nick Bondra's son, Peter Bondra's son, Nick Bondra. Yeah. So Peter's son, I was coaching. I was coaching Graham McPhee. That's George McPhee's son.
Yeah.
I was coaching Bruce Boudreau, who was a famous NHL coach. His son Brady. I was coaching the assistant coach from Baltimore Ravens, Jared Rosberg. I was coaching his son. So it was so many like famous people's kids I was coaching, except Michael's. It was like a lot of good players and famous families back then.
Yeah.
So it was
what
coming over there was not. Yeah.
I was gonna say, what would you think about, like, from a hockey perspective? I mean, hockey's hockey, but was there a big difference? I mean, you came from, okay, Stocksund. It's not. I mean, it's just like all other clubs in Stockholm. When you're looking at 10-year-olds, right? I mean, it's just chock full of these smaller, and you have some are completely new, and then you got some guys that are incredible talents on a 10-year-old, 12-year-old team or whatever. And then you go over there. Did you see a big difference, or what was the difference when you're looking at from a hockey perspective between 2 youth organizations?
I mean, the biggest difference is the mentality over there. I mean, they could be bad skaters or bad skills, but when you drop the puck, it's like then you go 110%. In Sweden, you don't have that. You didn't have it back then, at least. It's like so it's much more comfortable kids here. It's not they don't get the fighting spirit in the same way. I think we were a little more skilled. The Swedish player was a little more skilled than the American players, and that's why Michael wanted me to come to teach these kids a little more skills. But I mean, for me, coming over from Sweden and doing the Swedish way, I think many of the American parents didn't like it. They wanted the systems, they wanted the power play, they wanted the tactics. I mean, I had one. I think it was George McPhee actually. He asked me, "Why don't you have a breakout in power play?" And we were talking about 10 years old, and I said, what do you mean breakout in power play for 10-year-old? Yeah, you must have that. Everyone needs to know what to do on the ice. And I never talked about power play with my 10-year-old back in Sweden. So it was like, it was so much new stuff for me in youth hockey. And I think it was so good for me to see everything and to learn everything. So, I mean, I was a whole different coach when I came back from the US than I was before the US. I mean, I learned so much about the American hockey and American style. And I think I taught them a lot about the Swedish style too, about the skills training and everything. So here, I think here is the place where I go up to the coach that I still am today. Like try to mix the two cultures, like keep the Swedish style, but also adopt the American way.
Yeah.
So no, I mean, this was the best time of my life, of my hockey life. It was in the US.
But then you decided, all right, I'm not gonna stay here. I'm gonna head back to Sweden.
Yeah.
Did
Michael
Nylander got traded?
Yeah, exactly. He had a couple tough years there with a neck, broken neck and everything. So, and the family decided to move back to Sweden. And they asked me, where should the boys play? And I said, oh, they should play in Nacka or Stocksund. And they decided to play in Stocksund. But then they have became SDE.
Yeah.
And I was feeling a little bit lonely in the US. I mean, I had some friends and I had a very good job and I had 3 years visa.
Yeah.
So I could have stayed one more year. I had 3 different job offers. So I could easily have stayed one more year, but I felt like I'm missing Sweden. I want to go back to Sweden. And I was coming closer to my 30s and I was start thinking about family and everything to build something up in Sweden. So yeah, I made the decision to move back to Sweden after 2 great years in the US.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then so I'm looking at your LinkedIn profile here and it's got a little jump. Did you go straight back into Stocksund or SDE?
No, I had some different offers when I was heading back to Sweden, but I already decided then that I wanted to continue work full time with this. I mean, I had 2 years in Stocksund, almost full time. I had 2 years in the US where I was working full time with hockey, and I wanted to continue with this. I mean, I had some offers to become like men's coach in the second division, Allsvenskan, assistant coach there. I had some offers to be like assistant coach in U Gardens, U16. I had some great offers, but I wanted to coach full time, and those teams couldn't give me that. So I was looking to bigger jobs in smaller organizations, like sport chief, manager, jobs like this, where I can put in a lot of time and work and do it for a full-time salary. So that's when Täby HC came into the picture, and Täby HC back then was like very small organization in the North Stockholm. It was like, I think it was like one team pretty good, and then it was 3 years to the next team that was really good. I mean, it was no structure in the club. It was just like one team. If the parents played hockey, the team could be good, but it was nothing about building a club or a culture in the club. So I saw some opportunities there to do something really good, and I was looking at SDE and Stocksund, where I've been before, to like try to copy their journey, but to do it better than they did. When I came into Täby, then it was like all the money went to the men's team, but the problem was the men's team was playing in like Division 4 or something. So it was like old guys that played for fun. So the money should go to the youth program, not to the old guys. So the first thing I did was to take away the men's team in Täby and try to build up a better youth organization, and try to put the money into the junior program to lift that.
So that has to be, I'm sure that went exactly smooth and everybody was on the same page and from day one, and everybody, you had no friction at all when you make a change like that, right?
Right, yeah. It was a lot of fiction. It was a lot of protest and from angry parents, and say, well, who's this guy coming in here, and who does he think he is? And but I took, like, I had a really good coach too, Raffe Vronsky, that him and I was doing this together, but I was the sport chief. Like, I made all the decisions, but we have a really good.
Let me ask you, because different clubs have a different structure when it comes to, so as a general manager or sports manager for Täby, did they have the same person? So you were the sports manager for both the adult and the youth organization.
Yeah, but I mean, in those small clubs in Stockholm, it's not like the men's teams. If they play like Division 2 or lower, no one cares about it, really. It's like it's just for old guys to play for fun. It's like more like beer league in the US, actually. But they want a lot of money from the youth program, but it's still the same program, but they don't want to pay so much for themselves. They want the kids' parents to pay their hockey. Like, it's just ridiculous. Yeah.
And you're selling, you have the kids as a volunteer organization to sell trinkets and hot dogs and to make 30 people in the stands really happy about the Division 3 program, right?
Exactly. Yeah. So that's how it looks back then. I remember we had a sponsor deal with the CCM, and the sport chief before me, he gave all the sponsor deal to the men's team, like helmets and gloves and stuff like this. So and the problem was also that they took a lot of ice times from the kids too. So I didn't see a point to keep this team. I wanted the U18 to become the new, like, team, the new men's team, like, but to be the team that could do results and show the rest of the hockey world that Täby is for real. So that was the mission, like, just like SD had done before. Like, they had the U18 that they should go good results with.
What happened to the adult team? So you just basically you closed it down.
Yeah, and they have a lot of other teams to play in the close
but
area.
As an organization, you closed it. Okay.
Yeah.
And I'm assuming too, for the organization, you had a board or a styrelse.
Exactly.
Did you have to pitch that and propose that, or you must have had some competition within that, and not ever, or was it someone there that believed in you that, this is, how did you convince the board that this is what we're going to do?
Yeah, I had a really good leader of the board, ordförande in Swedish.
Yeah.
What's the
chairman of the board, so to speak?
Yeah, exactly. So he was the one hiring me, and he gave me like 110% trust. Like, he said, we want to do this your way, Freddie. It's like, we will listen to you. But the problem was, the first year they kept the old sport chief, so we had to get rid of him also after 1 year. It was like there was a very big competition between us. Like, he wanted to do a certain way, and I wanted to do the other way. So but when we removed him, it was easier also. Like, I can do it more my way. And the board, like, gave me full trust. So when I came there, I mean, the U18 team, when I started out, and this sounds like a lie, but it's easy to look it up on the internet. They were last position in Division 2, like they were lowest of the low. The players, some of them were standing and smoking behind the rink as a warm up. I mean, it was I was really this is not a joke. It was so scary about this team. It was like I thinking, oh my God, what have I get myself into? So, but I think it took 3 years to get him up to U18 level, or maybe fourth year we went up to from the lowest of the low, we went up to the highest division with the U18. So that was as better that the U18 became, the better the youth also became, and the youth players could play with the U18 team earlier. Like the best, I had so many good players. Some of them is playing in the NHL now, and they could play junior hockey before they left Täby, like, and then I could send them out to the different hockey gymnasiums. So we had like Tobias Björnfot in LA Kings. We had Krona. We had, I think we had like 3 or 4 players now that played in the NHL during these years. So,
but, and we do have to mention, we do have to mention another player, previous guest on the podcast, Gustav Blom.
Yeah, that's he never played in Täby though.
I thought he.
That's another Gustav Blom. We had a player born 97. Yeah.
Okay. I looked them up and I said, okay.
Yeah.
Another crossing of our paths here.
Yeah. No, Gustav Blom, the one that has been a guest to your pod. He's born 2001, but we met a little later. But he's a great player and a great person.
Yeah.
But I mean, if we're going to change Täby back then, we had to build up the culture. We have to do something different than the other organizations in Stockholm and Sweden did back then. So I started out with a playbook for all the players, like, and when I read it today, I'm kind of laughing of some things I was written there, but I tried to get, and I didn't just try, I did get the American winning culture into Swedish and youth hockey. I mean, we will start throwing tennis balls at each other just to learn how to block shots. We were start training really hard off ice. We were start doing a lot of physical drills on the ice. We were shooting pucks at each other just to block the shots, and it was like an experiment. We call it experiment.
Yeah, experiment. Yeah.
Yeah, experiment. Yeah, so we like tried ways to become better and tried ways to win more games.
Well, do you remember an experiment that was horrible, that failed miserably? Good intention, but just did not work.
Yeah, but one day when we were shooting pucks, we start blocking shots. I told them how to block the shots and how to protect their body, like with the gear.
Yeah.
And I was going to demonstrate this on one player, and this was my assistant coach's son, and he never get hurt from blocking a shot. But then at that moment, I was going to show, it was not a hard shot, but it hit him right under the shin pad. So he started like crying. He was really painful, and then I remember getting an email 2 days after this, like from a parent that didn't have kids playing hockey, but he said it was the most awful things he ever seen. They were shooting pucks at each other, and the kids were crying, and it was so it was so hard to see. And so I was that went a little wrong.
I've been there.
Yeah, we had a drill called 555 back then, and it was 55 meters between the goal line and the goal line. So every time the team did a bad practice, or they were skating bad, or they did bad passes, or they had bad focus, we just lined them up on the goal line, and we said, okay, 5:55, so they have to skate 5 times back and forth, and we could do it like 10 times per practice. So we were skating them really hard. Like we were like, we didn't punish them, but we were driving them really hard. But as more we were driving them, the more games they win. And back then we really had, in Stockholm, from U13 you could compete, and we had playoffs too, more like the American way, like like you do in every state. We had playoffs, and Täby never. I think Täby had historically, they won one time this Stockholm championship, but during my 5 years there, we won 11 times.
Wow.
Yeah, but
so do you think that it was do you think that the success there, I mean, what do you attribute it to? Was it because at that age you didn't recruit new players, right?
We didn't recruit, but a lot of players start calling us because they see what's happening in Täby. Like, how can they win the playoffs with 3 teams like same year? Never happened before. Like, we were the new like top organization in Stockholm. After 1 or 2 years, it went so fast. I mean, the results from U13 up to U18, we start winning so much games, and everyone saw like what's happening. So I mean, players started to call. And we got like some of the best players in the area came to us, and I offered them also to play with older, like if we had I think we had one guy, Albin Greve, who's a very good Swedish player, played SHL and Hockeyallsvenskan. He was a top player from Arlanda, for example, but he called us, I wanted to come to Täby. So we let him play 1 year up with the 2000 instead of 2001, and I had some players like this, but I didn't recruit players, but a lot of players wanted to come to us. Like, it started something. Parents and players, they want to win games, and they noticed that we were winning a lot. So, but we always took care of the little weaker players too. I mean, we could have 2 teams in the league. So we had one that we were played on a little higher level, and then we had one team on the little lower level. But we let everyone play, and we had great practices. And so I think all the players was getting better, not only the best players. I mean, everyone was getting better.
How important do you think that is for an organization to, especially at the young ages, to have stratification and multiple options? Because there are I've seen it where if you only have one team and you only got you got this talent players, and you have different commitments among players, and you have different talents, and sometimes you have really good talent with poor commitment. Sometimes you have high commitment, high talent. You have low commitment, low talent. But if you don't have options for stratification, it tends to bring the entire team down, rather than creating competition where with fluidity in between.
Yeah. I think if you have a small organization, like if you're not like the biggest clubs, you need to work between the age groups. I mean, you need to give the best 98s. You need to let them play with 97 team. I mean, that's how you can keep challenge them on in your program. But when they come back to their team, to their 98 team, their responsibility is to drag up the rest of the team to a higher level. So they have the opportunity to go up one age group and play and practice, but when they come down to their age group, they need to give back something to the little weaker player. So if I have like,
let me ask you on that, because I think go back to kind of, since you were here in the United States for a couple of years, USA Hockey has really put a damper on the ability to move to play up, as an example.
Yeah, I know.
You can't play up, and it hamstrings you as a coach for and what ends up happening is then players leave the organization, because if you can't play up an age group, now I will go to another organization that is a AAA organization and we're AA, or our team is single A, and instead, now it may not be a big deal in the bigger areas where you may have 5 or 6 organizations in one city, but if you got I tell you, I'm in a small market area, and now instead you have a player that will drive an hour and a half to get to the right level at age 13 or 14. But they'll spend 3 times a week, they'll spend 3 hours in the car. An hour and a half each way, on a school night.
Yeah, I know. And we have the same problem here in Sweden. I mean, the Stockholm and the Swedish Hockey Federation is getting more and more rules about this, that players are not able to play up and play with their own organization, with their own team. So it's, I think it's too much rules and too much things from the federation from that stop players from developing. I mean, from development. So it's.
But it sounded like that you had some. I mean, okay, you didn't have a ton of. I've tried this before. So you had some mentor in terms of people, and you had some mentors in terms of organizations that you work with. And then you had experiments. You tried, and you had, and I think another big one is that you had the backing of the chairman or the organization, but it couldn't have been easy.
No. But then when the results came, I remember that the board they were telling everyone, since Freddie came in, all the players has getting 20% better than they were before. Yes, to my and this father had a weaker player, but I think you have to get rid of some people and some personalities that works against you, and you need a board that supports you. Like if you're going to do a big change, and this was a really big change. I mean, people in Stockholm, they called me crazy, but I was bringing the American culture into Swedish hockey, so that was the biggest change for Täby back then. I mean, that's why they still are so good, because the culture is still in the walls, and people that was with me back then, they still tell me, oh, you built this up, you did this and you did this. And of course the people that are in Täby now and that's been in Täby after I left 2015, they have done an amazing job as well, and the organization is getting better and better, but the winning culture is still there. It's the winning culture is still in the walls, is still in the jerseys, is still there. What we build up, like we started out 2010.
But it reminds
me. How we build. That's how we build like a strong organization that lives. It doesn't matter what people work in the organization. It's just the culture is still there. So
Well, it reminds me kind of Jim Collins' Good to Great, right? Getting the right people on the bus, getting the wrong people off the bus, and then you can figure out which seat you're going to be in, and it's amazing where the bus will take you, so to speak.
Exactly.
Now, since then, if we fast forward a little bit for sake of time, you've been with Vallentuna for 3 years. Big Beholm.
That was
but in Vallentuna you worked more with the juniors than the youth, right?
That was more in Täby, more youth, and also a little bit with the junior team. I was coaching the junior team my last year, final of my 5 years was, and we made a SM-slutspel, Swedish championship, our first year in the highest league. So that was like a big diploma for me to finish my 5 years in Täby, to go for the first time ever to the playoffs in the U18 level. But then after that, I went to Vallentuna and worked with the U18 and the U20 team, and they were in the lower divisions. And they told me, okay, in 3 years we wanted to play on the elite level.
Yep.
After 1 year, I brought both teams up to the elite level. So, and basically doing the same things. I took away the players that didn't want to do the work. They didn't want to put down the work. They didn't want to do the off-ice training. They were the lazy players. And I put my eyes and the spotlights on the players that wanted to do the work. They weren't the best players, but I remember telling them that, okay, the players that works the hardest, they're going to be the leaders of this team. So it was like players that maybe played in the fourth line before. Suddenly he became my team captain, and it was like.
But that doesn't sound very Swedish.
Yeah. No, but it wasn't so Swedish. I mean, I was doing it the American way. I just wanted to see people work their asses off out there on the ice. I mean, that's what I did. I did American style, and that's what made Täby, and that's what made Vallentuna so good those years. But I tried to keep a little bit of my Swedish stuff too.
Yeah.
But, so I mean, this was before. I mean, now around 2015, maybe the Swedish Federation started to talk about to adopt the American style of hockey and play a little more physical, play a little more like straight north and south instead of east and west and stuff like this. So this was even before. So when I started like to dump the puck in Täby, people was shaking their heads and thinking, what the hell is he doing? I mean, none youth hockey teams were doing a dump and chase back then. Now I see it a lot in the youth hockey.
Well, and I was always curious about that in terms of like, you know, you do have one big difference, and that's the size of the rink. How much is this still? I mean, I've watched the last 2 seasons. My son played juniors in Sweden, and I don't know. And the biggest thing for me is the lack of a forecheck. And I assume that it was because of, well, it just doesn't work to have a really, really intense forecheck because it's too easy to break through with a size rink. Is that a fallacy? Is that wrong?
I mean, in the U18, you see a lot of forecheck. I think like physical game, but it's true, because when they get older, like U20 men's leagues, it's much lower tempo games. I mean, then you can what do you call it, burskydd in English?
The net, using the net as to your advantage to protect against the forechecker.
Yeah, exactly, to do the breakout. So that's more common, like in adult hockey here. But I think the Swedish hockey during this time, 2012 to 20, maybe those, or 10 to 20, those 10 years, we tried to be more like the North American style. And I think North American hockey started to look more at the European style, like to slow things down a little. But of course, it's the bigger rinks give us more opportunities to control the puck over the whole ice, and we don't dump the puck as much in Sweden as we do in the US. But I think before 2010 you never saw it, but now you it's at least a part of the game where you do it. So I think I was not the one that brought the American hockey into Swedish hockey, but I think the Swedish hockey was also look at the American way of playing, like at the same time. So I came back to the Swedish hockey in a time when Swedish hockey was looking at the American hockey. So I think I was maybe just a little ahead of the time, like on at least at the youth hockey level. But I mean, on the national team, we started a little bit earlier.
So let's round out a little bit here now. Talk about the position where you're in now. I mean, you've been there now since 2020. You've got so if you compare yourself 10 years later than when you started with Täby, 10 years later you go to Saltsjöbaden, small organization. What are the differences and what are the similarities if we start there?
Saltsjöbaden is like, it's very special because it's a small part of Nacka commune. It's just like a small community out in Nacka, but it's right in the archipelago. So it's like it's a little bit off. So
it's definitely not center of Stockholm.
Yeah, exactly. In Täby, we had like a lot of communities close to Täby, so you could live like. You don't have to live in Täby to play in Täby, but we have no players in Saltsjöbaden that doesn't live in Saltsjöbaden. All our players is living in Saltsjöbaden.
Okay.
So it's not the team that you are moving to. Like it's more like the team you're leaving to go to Nacka or. But I mean, when I came to Saltsjöbaden, it was a big difference because we didn't have so much people that have a hockey background. Most of the parents never played hockey, so it was more like okay, I try hockey with my son, but he's going to do 7 sports too. He's going to play tennis, he's going to play golf, he's going to do football, he's going to do like 6-7 more sports than hockey. So I think we didn't have the chance to give the players. We didn't give the opportunity to players to become really good because they had to do 7 different sports. I think you can do multi sports, but I think it's enough like with 2 or 3 sports to to handle all the sports. So we have a really good player now that he's born 2010, and I think he's top of his age group in Stockholm. But he also played tennis on a very high level. And he could combine these two because I gave him the opportunity to practice with the younger and the older teams too.
Yeah.
But so that has been a very big challenge in Saltsjöbaden, like the culture. What's the culture here? At least if I compare with Täby, there was a lot of people that played hockey before. But so in Saltsjöbaden, I really have to start from the bottom. I really have to start with a hockey school. With the youngest kids, like 6-7 years old, I really have to start there to convince them that hockey is so much fun. I need to convince the parents that the hockey is so much fun. So they start getting interested in hockey, and then to make it a little better. We need to get the parents into it, like. We need to get the parents on the ice. We need to get the parents start learning sharpen skates and things like this.
But you can't do that by yourself.
No.
So how important is it to build what you're talking about is creating a culture, changing a culture. It has a culture already, but when you start it, how do you because you're not going to be able to get it's different. You're not going to just get recruitment automatically. So now you're really looking at a different development model. You can't you can't just say, oh, we're gonna cut you because there's 5 guys waiting in line that wants to come in, right?
Oh no.
Right?
No, I need to recruit a lot of young people, like from the schools and from I mean kindergarten, and we need to get them into the sport, like into hockey. And the players I get into hockey when they're 6 years old, that's the ones now I'm have to try to keep up to their U18, because I don't get any new players when they are 13 or 12, or because Quebaden is located where it's located.
So do you have do you have a board there as well? That is, what's the, how is there a similarity with when it comes to kind of the board letting you do what you want to do?
It's been a lot of rotation on this board actually. In Täby I had the same board like for all my years almost, but here has been a very big rotation. But now I think it's like 2 years back we start getting those hockey people. I mean, Jonathan Eriksson was one of the best Swedish defensemen, played in Detroit many years. His son is in the organization now. He's born 2016. So Jonathan is actually my U8 coach.
Okay, so that's where I'm going next.
Yeah. So that's one great guy to have in the organization. And I told the board that I want Jonathan in the board because he got the most experience of hockey of everyone here. So we have another guy.
But you also have to find you also have to find other Fredriks, right? Young Fredrik Nygrens, right?
Yeah. So that's also part. We need to try to find young coaches that really want to do this. I have one guy now called Victor. He's only, how old is he? He's only 18 years old, but he's been coaching now with me for 2 years. And he's getting better and better every day. And my key to get better coaches is to be with the coaches on the ice like every day. So every other week I'm on all the practices. I'm on the ice with all the teams. From U8 up to U20, I'm on the ice and I'm running the practices. Sometimes I let the coaches running the practices, but I educate the coaches on the ice. That's so much. It's very important. That because then I'm not only teaching the players, I teach the coaches as well, and they can get inspired. They get inspired from my drills and they see, okay, where's Freddie doing here, and how is he talking to the players? And so I'm coaching the coaches. That's a very big key. And then when you find a guy like Victor, who's 80 years old now, you give him more and more. I have to give him more challenges. I told him, okay, now Victor, you're running this and this and this. So I build him up, I try to build him up from the ground. And if I give him more trust, then he will give me more trust, and he will give the players more trust. So that's how I find the new coaches, like the new Freddies. And that's the way I learned with Roger and Thomas and Per back in the days. They gave me confidence and they gave me trust to do things.
Well, I have it circled here on my little cheat sheet, and I've got Per Wilén and Roger, and I said, the new Per and Roger. Is that kind of you are becoming them at a pretty young age, though, right?
Yeah. I'm 41 now, and I got two kids of my own. So and
the run. I mean, the trajectory. So this is where you are now, right? Where's the trajectory? Do you feel like, and the last question is really, do you think that this is a model that or are other organizations kind of following this model? How different is this from what Swedish Hockey Federation is pushing?
I mean, Swedish Hockey Federation I think they're doing new stuff and different stuff. They have a hard time finding their way to go. I mean, 10 to 15 years ago. Yeah, exactly. That's the right word. Maybe 10 to 15 years ago, they did more job to educate the coaches, to educate young coaches. I think they did practices manuals. They did more education. They was focusing more on this stuff than they're doing now. I always try to develop. Like I'm not the same coach as I was in Täby. I'm not the same coach I was in Stocksund. I'm not the same coach I was in US, but I try to keep the best parts from those years. Like I try to like pick the best things from every year.
Yeah.
And now I think I'm more, when I was younger, I was afraid to someone else is going to step in and take my position, or someone else is going to, try to tell me what to do. And now I'm older and I know that it's more important to listen to other people, like to talk to other people. And an 18-year-old in Victor, he can still teach me things. It's not just me that's going to teach him. I think I was more, back in the days, I was more my way or the highway kind of guy. But now I'm more like, it's not the same prestige anymore.
Well,
So
and isn't it also a sign of, I think back, I just had a conversation with, or on the podcast with Roger Jönsson in Olofström,
yeah,
that is as solid as they come. And it's okay, he's in Olofström. It's not the same recognition as he was when he was in Oskarshamn.
yeah, exactly.
And yeah, you could be with Djurgården.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So, but you choose to do this in Saltis.
Yeah. I don't know if I could be in Djurgården right now, but I know I could 10 years ago. I could also been in Södertälje U18. I turned them down once.
I mean, much more.
Yeah.
There's a lot more sexy clubs
Yeah.
that you can do what you're doing in. But isn't that a little bit of the, like, from a quality of life? I mean, it was so real to be able to, the ability to have a board that supports you, the ability, you have raw clay that you can mold, but you can also take this experience that you've gained and be able to, in a calm, methodical way, get to kind of where it needs to go.
Yeah.
Without a lot of interference, that perhaps in a Djurgården, you would have so much more pressures. Think back at your time in Maryland, where you got all these, people that knows exactly what to do. You should do a breakout and power play for a U10, right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
There's trade-offs.
Yeah. No, I feel I'm in a different place right now. And I mean, like you said, my second year in Täby, Södertälje called me, like one of the biggest clubs in this area, and they say, "Oh, you want to coach our U18?" But I wasn't finished with Täby back then. I mean, I had everything I wished for, and of course, I've been looking at Djurgården or HV71 or those clubs and thinking, "Oh, I wanted to do this," but now I'm in a place where I want to be right now, and I love coaching and teaching hockey, and both for the youth guys, both for like a 7-year-old, but also for a Victor that's 18, or for a Daniel who's 50, like, who doesn't have so much experience from hockey. I mean, I try to give the best of me to them, to be a good role model for them. So it's not the same feeling that I had like 2010. Maybe everything was about winning, or it was becoming the best coach I can be and win the most games. It's a different place and and time right now.
Well, and I think that is what's, I think we all get there through experience. We become experts after the fact. And most people, I look I spent 10 years coaching, and I'm no longer coaching. And I would be a completely different coach today than I was when I first started. And it's unfortunate, because I think most coaches go through that and they don't stick with it for different reasons, right? And when they have the biggest ability to give back is when they have that experience with it. But that segues into we always asked. So two more things we always ask the guests. If you listen to the podcast, I ask every guest. You met yourself at 17. What things did you know? What things do you know now that you didn't know back then? That now you're sitting there side by side, and could give yourself some advice.
Yeah.
Not necessarily what do you do differently, but what things do you think back and you're like, man, I was clueless about that. I wish I would have known this.
Yeah.
You know that
now. I think I wish that I had worked a little bit harder with my own ice hockey. Like, I think I could have become better than I became as a player if I put some more work into it, and try to listen more to other people. Like back then, I was maybe I should be the one that goes up to my coach as a 7-year-old and ask, what can I do to get more ice time, instead of just thinking the coach is an asshole when I'm sitting on the bench. Like, I remember when I was 18, I spent a whole game in my men's team on the bench. I was so pissed at the coach, but the only one that became worst on the ice was me, because my confidence went down, and I was thinking, sitting there and was pissed, I was punished the coach, but I only punished myself. So that's a good experience to give to younger players that think that the world is so unfair, and to just talk to, like, ask questions, talk to people. Like, if you're not happy with the coach, try to talk with the coach, because some coaches won't come up to you and talk with you. But if a player now would come up to me and ask me, hey Freddie, what can I do different? How can I become better? I'm happy when the players comes up and ask questions like this. I mean, it's that's the questions I wanted.
And isn't those conversations they're not every day, but I think back and it's like that, man, those are the best of the best times when you can have, you're not yelling and screaming and motivating, but you're really having this, like, an honest conversation with the player. When they're really coming to you and they see you as a teacher, and they're willing to absorb. I mean, that's whatever little that you can give, or a lot, is a special moment that you can be like, wow, I wish I had more of this. Last thing, we have a partnership with Target Aid. We've had James Reason on, a great organization that does a great job with their fundraising platform. But the initiative that we have, that we try to build some content for the different organization, and every guest will be under the Swedish Junior Hockey Podcast kind of section of their website, which is Klubben i mitt hjärta. So the team of my heart. You've been a few different places, but as of today, which team is in your heart?
Okay, but I'm also a supporter, but that's most soccer. I'm supporting Djurgården. I'm a season card holder in Djurgården football, but you call it soccer, of course. So when I was younger, I mean, in the hockey too, I was watching all the Djurgården's games. But since I'm working so much in hockey, I don't spend so much time watching Djurgården's hockey games. But the football games or soccer, I watch all the games when I have time. But in the organizations I've been coaching and playing with, that's impossible to answer.
Well, maybe
so
I'll
have to go with.
Go ahead. Just to go with your gut.
I will say Stocksund then, because they're no longer existing in the hockey. So Stocksund's EF was a great time.
Yeah, and that's awesome. And I think that that's kind of like, you know, they all hold. It's easy for me because I grew up in Leksand, and Leksand's still around, and it's, you know, they still have the best jerseys in all of sports.
Yeah.
And you know, that's my Leksand jersey hangs in my closet, not on the wall, but
Yeah.
you know, that's just because I want to wear it. Um,
Yeah.
you know, but so that's why we do this, and it's a cool little thing. Thanks for jumping on. I really think that it's what you've lived through, what you've done in the organizations that you've been. It's clear that you use the experience that you have had, and you're always building, and you're
Yeah.
leveraging the experience, and you're not shy of trying some new things, and you're evolving,
Yeah.
and you're not the same as you were from the beginning, which is so refreshing to hear. So
But also, Jacob, it's also like when I'm doing skills with 9-year-olds today in South Korea, I still using some of the skill drills that I was taught 20 years ago in Flemingsberg with Roger Dahlström and Thomas Storm. I mean, it's like I still using those stuff as well. So it's kind of cool to keep, like I told, like to keep my roots, but still change during all the years though.
yeah, and I guarantee you there's going to be things that your kids today will be teaching you that you're going to be like, wow, 10 years ago,
Yeah.
you know, or you're going to be asking one of your kids to demonstrate because you can't do it.
Yeah. Yeah.
So thanks for coming on. We'll stay connected for sure, and we'll be releasing this a little bit after. We're doing a kind of a mini series. We just released it actually today on mindset and kind of the
Yeah.
mental performance end of the game. So I kind of want to throw this in more from an organization and leadership kind of concept. You know, there's not just players that listen to this podcast, and hopefully we can educate and inform, which is always our goal. So thanks for jumping on.
Thanks for having me.